Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined today by Andrew Erickson and Derek Brown. Fellas, we are talking about some must starts. We're going to hit the running backs. We're going to get the receivers. We'll even sprinkle in quarterback, tight end, and a defense for you. It is week 2. We have week 1 in the books. Let's jump right in. DBro, we'll start with you this time on the must start running backs in week 2.
Well, first guy I'm going to bring up here, I know Erickson's going to be all tickled and happy about this. Rachaad White, baby, going against the Chicago Bears. Give it the 9th highest yards after contact per attempt in week 1. If you go back to last year, too, and really this is where it comes down to where we can see the ceiling for Rachaad White is in the passing game. The Bears last year, 8th worst yards per reception allowed to running back. So got to be starting Rachaad White. He's an RB2 with RB1 upside this week. And then I'm going to sit here and lay into my guy, James Cook. The Raiders are not a really good matchup on the ground, but again, we saw James Cook get utilized in the passing game last week, 15.3% target share. He got 6 targets, although I was told Josh Allen never checks down and James Cook will never get utilized in the passing game. Voila, it's here, baby. And now going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who allowed the 4th most receptions and the most receiving yards to running backs last year. Got to fire up James Cook. Last guy I'm going to bring up here, and people could be scared off of what happened in week 1. And I'm telling you right now, start Rhamondre Stevenson. Don't care, doesn't matter. Play him this week. Massive bounce back game coming right here. Because look, Miami Dolphins, lowest stuff rate in the NFL so far and the 5th highest yards after contact per attempt. Rhamondre also got a ton of work in the passing game. And I know that, look, the Patriots did check down. They did run a lot of plays. They were top 5. And brace yourself, people. The New England Patriots were top 5 in neutral passing rate and pace last week. I don't know if it holds, but if it does, Rhamondre to the moon.
I came away from that Monday night game extremely excited about James Cook, and it wasn't because the numbers were some sort of sensational output. There were 15 running back carries in that game. Cook got 12 of them, and he had the 2nd most targets on the team behind only Stephon Diggs. You just tell me those numbers, and I think we all expect the Bills' offense to be a lot better than they were in that first week when, Josh Allen isn't turning over the ball 4 times in the game. Those numbers in that offense has me giddy about all the James Cook shares I have. I mean, do you think if that type of usage continues, DBro, that we could be looking at a real RB1, back-end RB1, but an RB1 rest of the season?
Yep. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, Worm. I was going to say, if you brought up RB2, I was going to tell you it's going to be an RB1. Because, again, the Bills are going to score a ton of touchdowns this year. I know week 1 looked terrible, okay? It's one game, people. Josh Allen did not forget how to play football. It's all going to be okay.
He always struggles against the Jets, too. It's a particularly bad matchup, or at least it has been recently for Allen. Let's jump into our Who Should I Start tool that's free to use for anybody at fantasypros.com/start. It's a player comparison tool where we're going to put 2 guys head-to-head and ask the analyst, who are you starting? These 2 guys, most of them I tried to pick guys that are back-to-back in the expert consensus rankings, so it should be a theoretically difficult decision. Again, that's free to use at fantasypros.com/start. And DBro, and by the way, these are all half PPR scoring. So DBro, first one for you, Rachaad White or Najee Harris?
Oh, it's White. Not even close.
White's getting 62% of the vote there. James Cook or Alexander Mattison?
James Cook. Did anybody watch Alexander Mattison play last week?
So this one I will say was actually very difficult to find somebody because Cook, I think he's ranked RB15. I forgot to write that down. But wherever it is he's ranked, the guy right ahead of him is getting like 80% of the vote over Cook. And the guy right below him is Madison is only getting 30% of the vote. So Cook is just like very solidly in. I do think it's RB15. He's just like very solidly there in the eyes of the experts. He's getting 70% of this vote, like I said. Rhamondre Stevenson or Kenneth Walker?
Oh, I'm going with Rhamondre. I mean, Kenneth Walker had a lot, and I will say this. I was surprised and happily delighted about Kenneth Walker's usage, but we also need to understand, too, Kenneth Walker didn't do anything in the pass game. I know he got checkdowns and stuff. Rhamondre Stevenson caught overs. He had over 60 receiving yards. And that's not just an isolated fluke, people. Rhamondre's just that good in the passing game.
Walker actually got 69% of the vote in this. Rhamondre Stevenson just 31%. Erickson, what do you think about that one? Rhamondre Stevenson or Kenneth Walker this week?
It's not even a question. Like, what?
Thank you,
why,
Erickson.
Why?
Thank you.
I don't have words. What are we doing here, people?
Do they think Mondre still has the stomach bug? Like, is he going to be taking like is he going to be running out to go to the bathroom in the halftime and not coming back?
People are afraid of Zeke. Zeke got 7 targets, averaging 2 yards per target. Guys, come on, what are we doing here?
I don't pick ridiculous. These. I pick the comparisons. I don't pick the numbers. I just read them to you. So don't shoot the messenger. Erickson, give me your must-start running backs here in week 2.
All right, I'm going with Jamaal Williams. Had a bell cow RB1 role in week 1, 18 carries, and he had 2 catches for a total of 53 yards. Not great, but he didn't score. However, I like the matchup more this week against the Carolina Panthers. Last week was against the Tennessee Titans, and we all kind of expected him to kind of underwhelm in terms of yardage, but he got the touches. He just didn't score. I think that he scores this week against Carolina. We saw them give up a lot of yards on the ground and through the air to Tyler Allgeier, and Bijan Robinson allowed 5 yards per carry to the Falcons in week 1. So I think it's a much better matchup, and I think you continue to roll with Jamaal if you drafted him kind of as a late running back. There's not a lot of running backs that you can start where you can feel confident he's going to get 20 touches, especially just given the other backs available for the Saints. Kendre Miller's still dealing with an injury, so I think Jamaal Williams is good to go. Next up here is David Montgomery. We talked about the Seahawks defense. Not good. It's just not a good defense. I know they were pretty stout against the run with Cam Akers and Kyron Williams, but those guys aren't good. So I think David Montgomery's an actual better running back than those two, and the Lions can get way more of a push up front behind their offensive line than the Rams were able to do. And the Rams running backs, they weren't efficient, but they still scored 3 touchdowns. So Monty coming off 21 touches at a 77% snap share. I don't necessarily think those numbers are going to carry over. Already hearing that they're going to get Gibbs more involved makes sense. But if they're playing with a lead, it's not going to be Gibbs run out the clock. It's going to be David Montgomery. And if he scores, you're going to be glad you started him, especially in the half PPR. Lions are heavy home favorites. And lastly, mentioned him, Tyler Allgeier. Look, ride the wave, folks. Like when you get running backs in committees that one of them is being productive and you're not really sure how the usage, I just say just ride the hot streak. Like continue to play Tyler Allgeier. He's a good running back. He showed that his rookie year. The Falcons want to run the football. So, yeah, and he was the guy they used in the red zone. So if they're going to score points against the Packers, who I think can be run on, then I think Allgeier is a guy you're going to continue to play week in and week out. And you just kind of got to be like, look, don't know what the usage is going to be like, but he's a good running back. And he's getting enough of volume in an offense that wants to run the football where I think that he's going to be okay more weeks than not. So for me, Williams, Montgomery, and Tyler Allgeier.
All I heard Erickson say was, I love Arthur Smith. Yep.
I wouldn't put that kind of evil on Erickson. The vitriol he will get in the comments. I asked you guys this between shows this morning. Would you start Allgeier in addition to Bijan if you have both of them on your roster? If you were trying to handcuff or saw value for Allgeier, Erickson?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we saw this a couple years ago where you were starting Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara every single week as dual running backs in the same backfield, and it worked. And it honestly takes a lot of the headache out of trying to figure out who's going to be getting what red zone touch and who's going to be playing this snap. Like, both guys played over 50% of the snaps. Like, that is rare usage for 2 running backs on the same team. And why would it go away? If Arthur Smith has his way, it's going to be all running backs all the time. So if I have Bijan and someone has Tyler Allgeier on their bench, I'm trying to trade for him. That way I can just start both guys every single week and not worry about how the usage and just be like, hey, insert Falcons running back here, scored points. Good for me.
Let's do some player comparisons here. Jamaal Williams or Miles Sanders this week?
Jamaal Williams for me.
Only getting about a third of the vote, 36%. Sanders is getting 64%. David Montgomery or his backfield mate, Jahmyr Gibbs?
It's still Gibbs for me. I'm not going to rank Montgomery because last week, if Gibbs had scored the touchdown instead of Montgomery, Gibbs would have outscored him. So it's going to really come down to whoever scores. But with Gibbs getting the lip service, I think that he'll probably outscore Montgomery this week.
Montgomery's getting 69% of that vote. I agree with you. I think that's an overreaction to him being the one that got in the end zone. Although I do like Montgomery this week. I'm with you there. I would still play Gibbs happily. Tyler Allgeier or Javonte Williams?
It's a close one, but
that's a close one.
I still don't like the Javonte Williams. I don't like the Broncos offense, honestly. It's gross. Like I know Javante's like involved a lot in the passing game, but they're not really getting him out in space that much. He's still splitting snaps with Samaje Perine, where Allgeier, I just feel better about his overall outlook on I like the Falcons offense more than I like the Broncos. Am I a criminal for thinking that? Like, I just think that their offense is more conducive to just overall fantasy points scored on the ground versus Javonte Williams, who's just like catching dump offs from Russell Wilson that are just not getting any yardage. So I just don't believe in this Broncos offense. They're playing the Commanders. They have a really fierce defensive line. I think I like Allgeier more.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I did a local like Denver TV hit yesterday, and they asked me what are some ways the Broncos can generate some more explosive plays in this offense, and I said tie the shoelaces together of the defense because I don't see another way they are getting explosive plays with the way they looked here in week 1. By the way, this comparison was not close. It's actually Javonte 77%.
Wow.
Allgeier 20. I think that's just looking at like, he's Allgeier's the backup.
The touches, but
yeah, I get that one.
But
But
a lot of name value too.
Watch the game.
Yeah.
Watch the games.
Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games, and who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code FANTASYPROS to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code FANTASYPROS. The crown is yours. DBro, let's move to the must-start wide receivers.
First guy I got to bring up. Last week was Brandon Ayuk week. Well, welcome to the Deebo show, people. It's going to be Deebo Samuel this week. So if week 1 kind of scared you away a little bit, come back into the fold. Deebo is going to have a really good game. And this all comes down to, talked about this in previous years, certain wide receivers dominating man coverage or zone coverage. Deebo is San Francisco's zone coverage beater. You look at weeks 14 through 18 last year with Brock Purdy under center. Deebo Samuel led the team in target share. He led the team in targets per route run, and he was second on the team in yards per route run against zone coverage. Why does this all matter? Because the Rams run a ton of zone coverage. So give me Deebo Samuel. And then again, another guy that disappointed us in week 1, but going back to the well here, Tyler Lockett. I got to start Tyler Lockett, man. Detroit, again, used a lot of man last year. They are heavy zone coverage, at least through 1 game this year. And if you marry not only the zone coverage aspect, but Geno Smith under pressure, and when we've seen this, the splits hugely favor Tyler Lockett. Versus DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett had a 26% target share versus DK's 18% whenever Geno is under pressure. So if Geno is running around for his life, and we've all seen the clip of when Aaron Donald runs into his face, he goes, ah! Yeah. He's going to probably be targeting Tyler Lockett whenever a defensive lineman's coming straight at him.
And your last receiver?
Last guy, well, I wanted to give a little bit of a dramatic pause here, Worm, because it's your boy. It's my boy. It's our boy. It's the collective boy of Fantasy Pros. Zay Flowers, baby. Gotta start him. Have to. Whether you're looking at first read target share, you're looking at his target share overall last week, the matchup presents itself that Zay Flowers is going to have another massive game. The way you attack the Cincinnati Bengals passing attack, or their pass defense, is with tight ends and via the slot. Mike Hilton via the slot, this is where they give up production. 8th fewest slot targets seen last year versus the defense, but yet they allowed the 10th most slot receiving yards per game. Zay Flowers is going to have himself a day.
Yeah, that pause had me nervous. I was like, this is the one Raven we're talking about here. Are you at all hesitant just in the fact that like Andrews didn't play in week 1 and that kind of opened up a lot of that underneath work for Flowers?
Nope, because Flowers is a triple threat, man. He can not only sit here and do the stuff like the screens underneath like we saw last week, which accounted for 40% of his target share, but he can also stretch the field. We just haven't seen that part of his game, but it could happen this week.
Yeah, I don't smoke, but I could have used a cigarette after watching some of those Zay Flowers highlights. He was absolutely filthy. Nobody should smoke. Cigarettes are bad for you. Player comparison time here. Deebo Samuel or Amari Cooper? I asked you about Amari Cooper in the Must Sit show earlier today, Deebo. Deebo Samuel or Amari Cooper?
This is easy, Deebo. Please tell me this is not close, Worm.
It's not close, but not in the direction you think. Deebo Samuel, 29%. Amari Cooper, 71%.
No.
Well, the Browns get the Steelers, who just got demolished by Ayuk and company, and they, people might be thinking that, another good receiver can torch them again.
Has nobody seen Amari Cooper play on the road? That doesn't go well.
I know. I'm just trying to get in the heads of the experts voting on this thing. Tyler Lockett or Mike Evans?
Oh, it's you, Tyler Lockett for me. Okay. Do we want an offense captained by Chef Gino, or do we want an offense led by Baker Mayfield?
They are playing the Bears, who may have the worst defense in the NFL.
That's fair.
Bears
give me Chef Gino.
Tyler Lockett, 68% of the votes in that one. And then Zay Flowers or Michael Pittman, who had a good first week.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go Zay on this one. Houston's defense looked surprisingly good. I think D'Amico Ryan's doing some things there. I think they're going to try to take away Pittman. So, yeah, give me my man Zay.
Zay Flowers getting 71% of that vote. Erickson, hit me with your must-start receivers.
Right, I'm going with some guys that pretty much sucked in week one, but we're buying the dip. We're bouncing back. Start with DJ Moore, talking about those Chicago Bears. Look, so he basically got erased by Jair Alexander in week one. They had 2 targets. He actually had one more target on a 2-point conversion, which he obviously did not catch. So it doesn't help us in fantasy. But look, he's going to have a big game here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's faced this Buccaneers secondary a lot during his time with the Carolina Panthers. The last time he faced them, blew up 117 yards on 6 catches, 1 touchdown on 10 targets. And the thing about DJ Moore that you want to keep in mind, yeah, he didn't get targets, but the Bears threw the ball a lot. They threw 37 times. That was more than they threw the ball at all last year. So the biggest concern with DJ Moore was, the Bears aren't going to throw enough. Kind of like with the Falcons. Like, that's why he's going to be bad, or that's why he's going to fail. Well, it was weird because he threw it a lot. It just wasn't to DJ Moore. So that's not going to keep up over the stretch of the season. Like, Roschon Johnson's not going to get 7 targets every single week. He's a running back. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, running backs out-targeting wide receivers that are running a route on nearly every single drop back. That's just not sustainable over time. So DJ Moore, I think, is the perfect buy low. This happens with DJ Moore all the time. He has a lot of ups and downs as the season progresses, but no matter what, he finishes as a wide receiver too, and it's going to start here in week 2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. T. Higgins. Entire Bengals offense was horrible in week 1. T. Higgins had 8 targets, 0 catches. He had 151 air yards and just nada. Basically because Higgins is a contested catch guy. Well, this is what happens when you don't catch the contested catches. You basically dud out. Last player was in 2015, Amari Cooper. That was the last player to have 0 catches on 8 targets. Next week, Amari Cooper, 6 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, the fact that he's still getting targets and seeing them down the field is indicative of he's going to have a big week. And it's up against this Ravens secondary that, as the house of horrors that the Browns defense is for Joe Burrow, it's the clown house for the Ravens defense against Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has owned the Ravens secondary, and they still don't have Marlon Humphrey. I think he's going to shred them, and it's going to start with T. Higgins. So buy back on the dip with Higgins. And lastly, it's Jahan Dotson. He had 7 targets last week, 5 for 40 receiving yards. He led the team in routes run and air yard share. Again, we talked about McLaurin on the Must Sit show. McLaurin's going to get Patrick Surtain. Oh, what does that mean? Jahan Dotson's going to get DeMar Mathis, who got absolutely roasted and cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey by Jacoby Myers, who had a monster game in week 1. I think we're going to see the same results for Jahan Dotson. So someone asked me to drop Dotson. I was like, no, do not drop Jahan Dotson. I know week 1 was underwhelming, but still had 7 targets, 5 for 50. I think he's in for a big spot here.
DBro accusing me of being a homer, but Joe Burrow has not dominated the Ravens secondary since Mike McDonald became defensive coordinator last year. They actually did a really good job defending against him a year ago. Now, I'm with you on Higgins this week because they don't have Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams is out and that secondary is decimated. So injuries wise, I absolutely agree with you. I think the Bengals are, like, quite frankly, going to torch.
Ravens have no pass rush, dude. They have no juice.
It looked better this week in week 1
Against
with
the
Ajabo. Oh wait, but I know. I was gonna say I was going to admit it was against. I was going to admit that
Worm's gonna go off on some side tangent where he talks himself into Roquan being the answer. It's gonna be something like that.
Well, first of all, Roquan did change his defense when he came over last year. That's neither here nor there.
Told you.
Owe and Ajabo did what they should have done against a bad offensive line, which is dominated. My only real point was to push back on the idea that Burrow has owned the Ravens in his whole career, because he didn't really last year when McDonald came by. But again, fully with you on Higgins this week. Very quickly, because you mentioned Dotson, what did you make of this Washington offense in week 1? Because they didn't really dominate a very bad team like we expected them to.
I mean, Sam Howell's not going to move the needle for us, really. Like, he's going to do enough probably for 1 or 2 receivers to hit, maybe once or twice, like, a week. But I think that we kind of maybe collectively got carried away a little bit with the preseason, how good he looked. It's like he's still a 5th-round pick. Like, he's still a rookie or a second-year quarterback with not a lot of experience under his belt. So I think that against the Cardinals, really bad team is just kind of like, hey, this Washington Commanders offense is probably going to be below average, and there's not going to be him supporting all these fantasy weapons. And while all these guys are seeing targets in this offense, I mean, I'm really concerned about McLaurin. Like, I was concerned about McLaurin that he may have a really scary floor with Sam Howell as the quarterback, especially if Dotson is really the target leader and the target favorite for Howell when he's at quarterback.
Since I wasted time talking about the Ravens pass rush, let's go quickly through these player comps here.
Pass rush. To be,
no, your words, not mine. DJ Moore or Mike Williams, Erickson?
DJ Moore.
Moore's only getting 41% of the vote. T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk coming off that incredible game 1?
I mean, I can't start both of them. Like, what league is this? I mean,
I'm just putting guys who are back to back in the rankings.
On, Erickson,
you're the one who picked. You're the one who picked a high-ranked receiver.
Yeah, because people are going to be afraid not to start him.
I don't know. I think it was fair.
Erickson.
T. Higgins.
There we go.
Be wrong.
Higgins only getting 33% of the vote. Ayuk getting 67, and then Jahan Dotson or Michael Pittman. And I will tell you, this is basically a coin flip in the tool.
Dotson, easy.
Dotson's getting 51%, so just barely getting that vote. Before we move on with the show, let's take a second to talk about Factor. As somebody who's trying to eat healthier, I try not to go out to eat as much as I used to, but I found that it gets pretty tricky to cook from home all the time, especially when we're also swamped during football season. So my solution is Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, which delivers chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals straight to my door. It helps me stay on track with my healthy lifestyle, and most importantly, it saves me time. Factor's meals are fresh, never frozen, and ready in just 2 minutes, so I can skip the grocery store trips and food prep and still get all the nutrition I need. And they've got different categories to best fit your needs, whether it's effortless meals with lunch to go, calorie-conscious options with Calorie Smart, upscale meals with Gourmet Plus, or even a pure boost with Protein Plus. Oh, and they've got tons of breakfast and snack options as well. Head to factormeals.com/fantasypros50 and use code fantasypros50 to get 50% off. That's code fantasypros50 at factormeals.com/fantasypros50 to get 50% off. Guys, let's move to the section where we kind of put together a couple of these different positions. We're going to do quarterback, tight end, and defense all together here. DBro, who are your 3 there?
I'm going to lump 2 guys together, and we're going to stack them, baby. Jared Goff is a must start. Again, we saw what Seattle's defense looked like last week, and Sammy Ballgame. We're going to start Sammy Ballgame. The usage was there week 1, and now you have a Seattle Seahawks defense that was 2nd in fantasy points allowed to tight ends, allowed the highest yards per reception to tight ends, and the 2nd most fantasy points. Give me all the Sammy Ballgame I can handle, and we're going to tack this on and bring it home. We're going to start the Green Bay Packers defense versus Desmond Ridder. This is all defenses all the time against Desmond Ridder. It's an easy correlation, people. Ridder's bad. Play the defenses against him. If the Falcons find a way to lose this, it's because, guess what? Hey, you got Bijan. Hey, you got Tyler Allgeier. But you also have Desmond Ridder still playing quarterback. So if anybody could screw this up, it's going to be him.
I might have missed you saying it, but just to be clear, Sammy Ballgame is Sam LaPorta. Just so people do know who you're talking about.
His last name to Ballgame.
In case they haven't heard you talk about him all off season. And so I will ask you, Sammy LaPorta / Ballgame. 40% of the vote for him is, and Hunter Henry gets 60% of the vote. Who would you take there?
Ballgame. Easy Ballgame.
I kind of thought you might. Who would you take there, Erickson, LaPorta, or Henry?
I mean, I'm going to fade the number one tight end in fantasy football for a guy named Sammy Ballgame.
Well,
yes, you are, Erickson. Yes.
Well, I specifically included Henry because he is your tight end that you are picking here as a must start.
Yeah, the number one scoring tight end in fantasy football, Hunter Henry. That's right, baby. Patriots. Look, Henry was super productive against the Eagles. 556, 6 targets with a score. He also made a great one-handed grab to convert a third down. Excellent by Hunter Henry, if I say so myself.
Dear, you did.
And it's a projected shootout against the Miami Dolphins. Sunday Night Football. There's going to be points. Like, all the games are like under. Gross. This game is not gross. We talked about how the Patriots are dialing up the passing game a little bit more. That's good for the tight ends. That's good for Hunter Henry. And even though I know ultimately it's going to be Mike Gesicki that scores the revenge game touchdown because that's just what happens in fantasy football against the Dolphins, I still think Henry, with his usage and the fact that Mac Jones loves targeting him in the red zone, I think that he could score again, even if Gesicki scores. I like this Patriots offense against this Dolphins defense that got shredded by the Chargers. I think he's in a good spot. Donald Parham caught a touchdown against the Dolphins, specifically from the slot. You look at Hunter Henry and his usage. Was using the slot, had 3 catches for 34 yards from the slot. So I do like Hunter Henry as my must-start tight end, the tight end one in fantasy football, if I didn't say that. At quarterback, my must-start player is Daniel Jones. People are ready to abandon ship and jump off the Daniel Jones bandwagon because he had a bad game against Dallas on primetime. But if you watch the game, the guy put up like 30 rushing yards on the first drive. Like, he's using his legs. He is scrambling. That turns into fantasy points. And you know who he's not playing this week? He's not playing Dallas. He's playing the Arizona Cardinals, the worst defense in the NFL. Look, they're trash. Howell played bad last week and was still a top 12 quarterback in week 1. Like, Daniel Jones' floor is going to be QB 12 this week. I think he could be a top 5 quarterback. The dual rushing, along with Darren Waller playing a full complement of snaps, just praying that Darren Waller's hamstring gets through another week. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I like Daniel Jones, and then the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals matchup against the Giants. Giants DST is the one that you want to pick up and start off the waiver wire. Look, the Commanders barely got pressure on Josh Dobbs last week, and he was still sacked 3 times to go along with 2 fumbles. And he wasn't even pressured at all, and he was still making a ton of mistakes. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, so the Giants have a really high floor. And when you're playing defenses against the, Cardinals-led Josh Dobbs, this is going to be a disaster for them. So Giants DST, 6th in pressure rate last year, 1st in blitz rate. It's going to cause some turnovers.
I put the 2 tight ends you guys pitted against each other in DBro section. Now I'm going to do the quarterbacks. So, Erickson, I ask you, Daniel Jones or Jared Goff this week?
Ooh.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones getting 1/3 of the votes, 33%. Goff getting 67%. I assume you would take Goff, DBro?
It's really close. Shooting
Rushing
ceiling,
quarterbacks.
I'm going to go Daniel Jones here. I'm going to sit here and go with my guy.
You're not even believing in your own must-start player. What does that say about your picks? I don't know. Let's give a quick recap here. Must-start running backs: Rachaad White, James Cook, Rhamondre Stevenson, Jamaal Williams, David Montgomery, Tyler Allgeier. Must-start wide receivers: Deebo Samuel, Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Jahan Dotson. And must-start quarterbacks: Jared Goff, Daniel Jones. Must-start tight ends: Sam LaPorta, Hunter Henry. And must-start defenses: Packers and Giants. Please, everybody, make sure to try out Factor. If you're looking to eat healthier and more conveniently, go play some bets at DraftKings Sportsbook. Take advantage of all their free bonus bets that they're giving you. For Erickson and DBro, I am Ryan Wormeli. We'll see you guys again next time, and enjoy week 2, everyone.